So if, so if you could stay muted until the end of the event, that would be great. Um, so my name's Jonny and I'm the Islands-based Climate Action Development Officer for the North Highlands and Islands Climate Hub. I'm joined today by my colleague Amanda and guest speakers Miriam from Zero Waste Scotland, Matt from Circular Community Scotland, and Julian from Plastic at Bay. So this event tying in with Global Recycling Day is on circular economies, which hopefully you know as you are here and signed up for it. So I'll just start with a very brief introduction to the work of the Climate Hub. But as you hear for circular economy, I'll be quick about it. So the Scottish Government funded the Climate Hub for 3 years. We're just coming to the end of our Pathfinder phase at the end of March, and it's funded for 3 years past that. It's one of 2 pilot hubs, the other one being Nescan in Aberdeenshire. And the Scottish Government hopes to set up a network of regional hubs across the whole of Scotland. And the aim is for them to be community owned and led. And the overall aim is to embed climate action throughout for us, for the North Highlands and Islands, and then throughout the whole of Scotland when more hubs are introduced. So we aim to help embed climate action through support, collaboration, education, and celebration. So with support, we're happy to help in any way that we can, but generally it's through assisting with the design, development and delivery of a project, or just acting as a soundboard to bounce ideas off of. With collaboration, we're happy to help groups feed into one another and communicate with one another, or refer groups to organizations that can offer more tailored support than what we can. We're also looking to educate groups, so through events like this, which will hopefully give people ideas or inspiration to get started on a particular kind of project, or developing workshops such as to embed net zero strategy into their organizations or community groups. And we're also developing our own carbon literacy training, which we're hoping to give out to groups as well, so that they can engage with climate change and the climate emergency and eventually climate action. And we're also happy to celebrate the achievements that community groups in the area have accomplished. So climate action is essentially any project that leads to the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. Lots of climate action projects address community needs. I think that's one of the main points about the Climate Hub being community led, is that the approach to reducing climate impact also addresses community needs. A lot of groups have community projects that also inadvertently address the climate emergency, but they might not necessarily know that it does so. It's also likely in the future that funding applications will require groups to have some sort of climate action embedded into their applications. So we're happy to help with that as well. And circular economy projects are no different, with them addressing a wide range of community needs, which I'll talk more about in 2 slides' time. So what is a circular economy? Basically, traditional consumption in our society is that we buy products, we use products, and then we throw them away, so they contribute towards waste and greenhouse gas emissions. A recycling economy is essentially the same, except that resources are kind of reused maybe a couple of times and then eventually it ends up in waste. But a circular economy is one that uses resources time and time again. So you buy a product, use it, reuse it, share it, upcycle it, repair it, all that kind of thing, and it prevents waste and also reduces the need for more production. And here are some of the benefits. These are just examples of some of the community benefits that kind of arise from circular economy projects. They include things like reduced waste, knowledge and skills, togetherness, inclusivity, ecological benefits, employment, connectivity, equality, and less visual pollution. And they're just some of the examples. So yeah, that was just a whirlwind tour from me. I'll just move on to the guest speakers. So first up, we have Miriam from Zero Waste Scotland, who will be telling you more about the waste issue.
Excellent. Hello there. So let's just get my presentation up. Always the first challenge to make sure we've got it right. So have a thumbs up, Jonny, if that looks okay. Brilliant. Thank you. Perfect. So always you go ask somebody who can actually see on your screen when you've got your slides up, haven't you? So I'm Miriam from Zero Waste Scotland. If you haven't come across us before, we are a Scottish government funded organisation who look at resources across Scotland and making the most of them. So very much in support of the slide Jonny showed about the circular economy. That is something we are really striving towards. And as such, we work with local authorities, with the government, with businesses, a lot of support for businesses, trying to show them different ways you can implement the circular economy and still have a viable business and still support the economy. And also we work with community groups and the general public. And my role is very much with community groups and the general public. We are an evidence-led organisation, so we try and do a lot of research and then develop our messaging around that and our campaigns. And last year we launched a report during COP26 about Scotland's carbon footprint. Our concern was very much that COP26 didn't really touch on waste and consumption, and we really didn't want to miss out on that opportunity. So we were pushing this report and doing a lot of events around this. But basically the reasoning was that our report showed up that 82% of Scotland's carbon footprint comes from all the goods, materials and services that we produce, use, and in the case of products throughout up to just one use. So back to Jonny's linear economy part of the diagram, very much that we are throwing away an awful lot of stuff and we need to change it to more of a circular kind of opportunity. And also we often get the criticism that, oh, it's just, Scotland's just a small country, it's China that's at fault, it's these other countries. But actually the report said that almost half of our emissions are produced overseas. So we have to look beyond our borders. We have to look at what's coming into Scotland, what's going out of Scotland, and what we're using here. So there's a lot on there. We also released a report last month which went into a bit more detail about our carbon metric, and textiles came out very heavily in that. So that's again available on our website. So hopefully there's some good projects happening in the north of Scotland around textiles, certainly a few I've seen. In terms of the support we can offer, my role is very much about supporting you guys. So if you want to do anything that is related to waste and the circular economy, feel free to get in contact. We've got various materials, resources. I can do talks, but we can do it more as a training thing. So if you've got staff or volunteers, I can give you my presentations and you can feel free to use and abuse them as you wish and tweak them. We're not precious about them. And you can be using our resources to go out and talk to your communities. My role is also about inspiring more waste related projects. So if you've just got ideas or think, I want to do something about waste, but I don't know what to do, then we can have a chat and I can maybe give you ideas and also signpost you to people who are doing something similar, because most of what we do isn't new. Somebody somewhere will be doing it, but you may not be aware of them, so I can put you in touch. I mentioned talks and training. These are the kind of subjects I tend to touch on. Food waste is a big one, textiles mentioned, ditching disposables, again, get rid of those things that we use just once and then throw away. Obviously the circular economy you mentioned, and then we do lots of ad hoc campaigns such as Trial Period, which was about reusable menstrual products. We have lots of downloadable resources. There's some how-to guides. There's a repair and share guide, which unfortunately is quite out of date now. I know at least one of the organisations isn't trading anymore, but it gives some nice case studies of the kinds of things we can do in a community to repair and share more. And Matt will be going into more detail on some support available around that later. There's also toolkits like our Love Food, Hate Waste cooking class toolkit, which is great if you want to do cooking classes, but with an emphasis on reducing food waste. There's some really good tips in there. And lots of excuse me, lots of toolkits for local authorities on our partner site, but they are also available for anybody to look at and pick and choose what works for you. We do have some printed leaflets, but obviously being Zero Waste Scotland, we are trying to phase those out, and we're a bit open to criticism when we start giving out loads of stuff. But we do have quite a few of these leaflets and some goodies as well, still in our storage container. So if they would be of use to you, please do get in touch and I can send you some of those. If you're doing any work with schools, we've got some education packs around food waste recycling, and litter. And I mentioned campaigns. So from time to time, we do ad hoc campaigns. And whenever we do a campaign, there tends to be a toolkit or resources that back that up and available on our partners site. Although I will say the partner site is diabolical to maneuver. So if there's something you're looking for and you can't find it, do let me know and I can send that to you. And we're looking at trying to make that a little bit easier. But there's been campaigns about menstrual products, face masks, litter and fly tipping, and responsible consumption in general. We also, until the end of this month, so be quick if you want to have a look at this, have an energy efficiency business support service, which has lots of posters, toolkits. It has Green Champions training, which is a free online training course you can dip in and out of, and it's got resources on there or bits about saving energy, water and waste. The service isn't disappearing completely, it's moving from us to the Energy Savings Trust in April, but I don't have sight of exactly how that's going to be working. So as I say, if you want to be on the safe side, get on this site before the end of this month and download anything that you want. And I mentioned that we are evidence-led, so we do have a lot of reports on our website. So if you're looking for data about Scotland's specific waste and carbon impact, do have a look on there and feel free to use those stats in your campaigns as well. We also focus on weeks of action. So this week is what is normally our Pass It On week, which is all about reuse and repair. Unfortunately, with a global pandemic, the connotations of passing it on are a little bit dodgy at the moment. So this year it's very low key and we've just called it Reuse Stuff Week. And so you may see lots of stuff on our social media this week about that. So please do share any of that. But hopefully next year we'll be back bigger and better and encouraging community groups like yours to hold events about passing things on. That's the whole idea of it. We also run Recycle Week in September and European Week for Waste Reduction in November. And this year's theme is going to be textiles. So you've got 6 months to plan some grand campaigns and events in your area around textiles for that. And do let us know if you're going to do something. And you can get put forward for awards as well on a European level, which is very nice. Excuse me. One last thing to mention from me is that we do have a single-use plastics ban in Scotland coming up on the 1st of June. So this is going to help us be a little bit more circular, and it's going to ban things like single-use plastic, cutlery and stuff like that. So this is a kind of positive step in the right direction. If it's something, if you're working with businesses, especially food businesses in your area, then you may want to promote this as well, because some of them may not be aware this is coming up and it's obviously going to have an impact on them. There is an online toolkit. There's also a webinar next Thursday if you want to find out a bit more about it, but worth checking that out. And just lastly, there's some links here to our resources, our websites, the social media, obviously sites related to those as well. And I'll send the slides to Jonny, so if anybody wants any of these links, you can get them off him. And you can also get my email address from him as well. But that's me, so I will stop sharing, and I think there'll be time for questions and answers at the end.
I certainly will. Thank you very much for that. I'll just go straight to Matt now from Circular Community Scotland, and he'll talk about the circular economy some more.
Great, thanks, Jonny. Can everyone see that? That's excellent. That worked first time today. I'm quite pleased with that. It didn't the other day. Thanks again for the opportunity for chatting with you all today. Jonny, Amanda, and the team at the Hub, you're doing some great work, and hopefully your journey to doing great, even more great work is going to be fantastic. I am Matt Lewis. I work for Circular Community Scotland. We were up till last year CRNS, which was a bit of a mouthful, and we think Circular Community Scotland represents better and more clearly the work that our member network does. All of our members across Scotland are either voluntary groups, charities, or social enterprises doing some form of reuse, repair, recycling, or upcycling. And what connects them is the theme of the circular economy. And currently we have over 200 members, and we're growing, and we'll come back to our members in a minute. Firstly, just wanted to, oh, there we go. Okay, jumping forward. Just talk about waste and the more traditional waste hierarchy that you might hear the more traditional waste sector speak about, where you have all of the activities about dealing with waste from landfill and energy recovery, the bottom including energy from waste, moving on to recycling, through repair, reuse, and refusing stuff, i.e. not using stuff in the first place. What I wanted to say about this is when we're looking at a more circular economy, we are looking at the very top of that pyramid. We are looking at repair, reuse, and repairing and reusing, refusing as much as possible. That is the priority for us, our members, and we hope anyone that wants to do more towards a circular Scotland. I mean, recycling is good, but we can do more than what we're doing at the moment. I don't need to spend too much time on this slide because both Jonny and Miriam have covered the linear versus circular economy viewpoint. And again, we've just got another interpretation of a circular image that sees all the different parts of what we think makes up a circular economy through the actual research and development and the actual manufacture and making of products, through to their use, to them being repaired and then reused and then ultimately recycled. But bottom line is a circular economy system is all about keeping resources in use for as long as possible. It's that is the aim. So who are our members and what do they do? Well, we do a survey every year, and this was autumn last year, and we tag our members' activities across a number of different themes. And this infographic shows you that the range of activities and materials the members are involved in. And quite clearly, reuse furniture projects are the main bread and butter of our average network member. And that includes white goods and IT and recycling as well. But you'll see there's lots of other projects there that we would class as circular economy, whether it's bike reuse, food waste and community fridges. Some projects still do a traditional recycling service in their area. That's all great. Clothes and textiles projects as well. The one I just wanted to point out was the tool libraries, repair cafes and upcycling, because that's something that we're quite excited about, and we've got a project I'm just going to mention in a second. So across all those activities, what's the impact? I said a second ago, our membership currently stands at 200. Well, when we actually surveyed our members back in September last year, we were just 143 members. So we're already demonstrating growth from last autumn to now, which is brilliant. But just measuring the activities of those 143 members across pounds, people and planet We've got £90 million worth of turnover across the network, over 1,200 staff, over 6,000 volunteers. And there's also a measurement of the reuse and recycling tonnage. And you can see that reuse tonnage is much more at 20,000 tonnes estimate than recycling, which is an indication of where most of the members are, again, on the waste hierarchy. We have done an estimate of turning that tonnage figure into a carbon saving figure. I would say that figure, honestly, is quite an estimate. For a couple of reasons in terms of the data quality, but it is clear that reuse and recycling activities have a huge and positive impact on carbon savings, which is really, really impressive. And when you put all those figures together, the activities of the network are incredibly significant. And when you have conversations with government or private companies or local authorities, when you start putting those collective figures to them, they really are quite impressed, and we are an important part of the circular economy solution for Scotland. And finally, I just wanted to mention some new projects that we're really, really excited about. First of which is our share and repair network project. We have now in post just for a couple of weeks a development officer called Emma Irwin, that used to work for Transition Sterling in their repair project and tool library hub. She's now working full-time with us on our share and repair network to support existing sharing libraries and repair projects, but also look at opportunities for new and emerging sharing libraries and repair projects as well. So we're really excited about that. Again, share and repair is right at the top of the waste hierarchy. We want to see more of these things happen. So hopefully she's going to, the next couple of years, do some great work to bring that work on. In a similar vein, we've got a similar project emerging around bike reuse as well. We've got some funding from Cycling Scotland and the Scottish Government to support employing a dedicated bike reuse officer who will do a similar role and support existing bike reuse projects and identify opportunities for new projects to emerge or to collaborate or have partnerships between existing ones. So those two are really, really excited about, and we can tell you more about those when we recruit the bike officer. We're in the process of recruiting the bike officer at the moment. Emma has started the share and repair network. I'll put the links to our website in the chat afterwards if you want to follow up looking at that information. And the final thing, probably for us looking to be the most important thing we're going to look at in the next couple of months, is that the Scottish Government have announced they are going to be putting the Circular Economy Bill back to Parliament, and there's going to be a consultation around that in May. Lorna Slater, the Minister, announced that last week at one of our members in Edinburgh. And one of the things she specifically mentioned, which is of interest to us, because we've been pushing for this along with others, is the bill is potentially going to include looking at a ban on the disposal and the throwing away of returned items that private companies have had returned to them. You might all remember Amazon last year were in the news for disposing of a huge amount of returned items to their warehouses because it was the easiest and the cheapest thing for them to do. Well, that's just not right in a circular economy. So hopefully there's going to be legislation within the Circular Economy Bill to make that practice illegal. A couple of other things we're going to be pushing for and we want to see are a real focus on reuse, especially at council recycling centres. We want the first thing you see at any recycling centre when you enter it is the opportunity to donate or to reuse items. It happens in some sites, but not all of them. So we think if there was legislation to help support it happening at all sites and to encourage reuse, that would be fantastic. And alongside that, we think a reuse target that local authorities would have to try and meet alongside their recycling target obligations would again strengthen and promote and increase the amount of reuse happening at a local authority level. So I think that's all I wanted to say this afternoon. You might have a couple of questions for later. That's great. I'll put all my contact details and our website in the chat. But thanks very much for the opportunity. Cheers.
Thank you, Matt. That was really interesting. If anyone's got any questions, we'll do the question and answer session in 10 or 15 minutes. Next, we're just going to hear from Julian from Plastic at Bay, who's going to give a brief presentation on kind of the community aspect and involvement in the circular economy project. So take it away, Julian.
Oops, wrong. Sorry, excuse me. I just sent the wrong window. Sorry. Do you get it? Okay. So I chose a slightly provocative title, but basically there has been a bit of objective to have some kind of a circular system to deal with intense pollution we know here on the coastline near Cape Wrath in the northwest of the mainland. So, I mean, you might not be aware, but this area is intensely polluted, and we have enormous amounts of plastic which are washing up on a very regular basis. So that's a picture from one of the coast, part of the coast we have to deal with. And we have been monitoring for about 5 years, thanks to a lot of volunteers waiting the data and publishing it on our citizen science portal. And basically, the blue curve is the amount of plastic which is collected, and you can see that there is always an increase, and it's actually accelerating in most of the areas of the coastline. If it wasn't, it would get flat, and then and the angle would lower. So we also looked at the nature of this pollution, and you may have guessed from the picture, it's mostly ropes and nets, and a bit and very little of hard plastic. So about 50% of the pollution is going to be constituted of ropes and nets. And
okay.
So basically, this is the hardest to recycle as the kind of plastic. I wanted to show you a little bit the situation. So the black arrows are like the plastic floating across the ocean and washing up in the middle of nowhere here near Cape Wrath. And you basically have four possibilities. Either nobody notices it and it gets buried along the shoreline, so it stays for the next generation, or with a bit of luck, someone finds it and picks it up. And most of the time, what you do is that you organize a beach clean and you rent a skip, or you have a deal with the council, you put it in the skip, and that's your red path here. So it gets buried near Aberdeenshire, which is basically the same thing as leaving it in the ocean, because except that you don't deal with it, the next generation will have to. The second option is that you're very conscientious. You recognize some things which you could put in your blue bin, for the regular recycling stream. You clean it and you put it into your bin. It's packed by the council. It goes to a harbor, into a bale, and then it's shipped somewhere, probably Turkey, where in Turkey there is nearly no recycling facilities, so you don't really know what happens there. So that's another possibility. The last possibility, it's not possible, but you can imagine that you have, someone very well placed, or you can ship it to Odyssey Innovation, which does that in Southwest England, and your ropes and nets are being shipped to Denmark, where there is the major recycler of fishing ropes and nets. They recycle it, they make pellets, and these pellets are sent back, and you can make, for example, a kayak with it. So that's basically what is offered to us at the moment. And I try to make a sort of a schematic of what is really happening into the recycling industry at the moment. So I just took the case of if you have a group which is like us, which is actively cleaning, you can collect between 5 and 20 tons of plastic easily every year. And I took 20 tons because that's one container, it's easier. So you do the collection, you spend a lot of money because you have to arrange the transport of all these things. And then it needs to be packed. So for us, it would be from Durness to Inverness, so 100 miles, and then it needs to go to Harwich, about 600 miles. Then it needs to be shipped onto a boat. That's 250 miles across the North Sea. Then transport to the factory, which is near the north of Jutland. And in this factory, a factory like this is going to use many megawatts. I mean, these are huge. They are like small cities. And per line, you're going to be able to recycle about 1 ton per hour of plastic. And the factory will produce pellets, which will be shipped back to the areas for manufacturing of new plastics. So basically, you spend again money. So the only person which will make money for real, a big profit, is going to be the factory. And inside the factory is just to explain a little bit how it works. So the plastics will be washed. So you will use a lot of water, which will be wasted. It will be a waste. Then it will be dried. So you need electricity to dry it. And then it's going to be shredded 3 times for the fibers. So these are huge machines. And then it's going to be pelletized. And the water will need to be cooled. And the plastic will be melted. So it's a combination of the 2 processes. And then it's exporting the pellets. In a circular economy, a true circular economy, as we hope to develop, basically the collection, the processing, and the money which is generated to make the collection is in the same circle. So the difference is that in our ID, which is a community-led recycling system, you have a first investment, but very quickly the community itself is making products they can sell and generate salaries to be self-sustainable. And you don't involve any transport either by truck or by boat. And that's the model we are developing, and the machines the way we develop. So we are based somewhere in the northwest, and we are planning to offer mobile support, like technical support, to different communities. And the advantage of each of these workshops, which wouldn't be factories, is that it's going to be low carbon, because you have no transport, but also the machines themselves don't use a lot of energy. So if you remember, I told you a factory will use thousands and thousands of kilowatts, whereas a workshop will use maximum 20 kilowatts. So it's a huge difference. And it's possible in a rural environment, whereas in most of the grids in our area wouldn't take more than 50 kilowatts, for example. And you could produce 30 kilos of recycled plastic every hour. So it's only, I would say, it's only 30 times less. So with 30 workshops, you do as much as this giant factory. And each community can deal with 5 to 20 tons a year, because we are working on different solutions to be very efficient. And what is very important is that all this stems from the idea of the low-tech approach, which we took from the precious plastic community, which was at the origin of the ideas of these machines. So first of all, we don't do active washing. So we use the elements themselves, the rain, the sun, to, sorry, my throat is a bit dry, to wash the plastics in a special environment. So there is no water waste. We also only shred once, so it's 3 times less. And one important thing is that we don't transport pellets. So on the same site, because you may know that the pellets may spill in the environment, we can make a product directly in the same room as where you shred your plastic. That's also one machine less, and it's also making the manufacturer enter into the recycling, whereas these are in the industry two very different entities. Also a very low power consumption, that's important for the low-tech approach, and it's easy to build and maintain. So anybody can make this machine. Not anybody, but nearly anyone with a mechanical knowledge. And that's quite important. We can see all the resources, the resource shortages are affecting all the different industries at the moment. And for that, low-tech approach is the only solution. So all our approach is also open source and sharing with different communities which want to be involved, and exchanging machines and knowledge and workshops and all that kind of things. So we're part of Precious Plastic. That's the machine I've modified from a Precious Plastic principle, but just to make it a bit more industrially interesting. And different products which can be made directly without using any pellet, directly into a small workshop, like tiles, beams, and that kind of stuff. What I want to push as an idea for low tech is that low tech is not no tech. It's not like the Stone Age. This is, for example, the machine can be entirely remotely controlled with very cheap microprocessor, but processor based on the Raspberry Pi that you can buy anywhere, and it can be entirely automated to work 24/7. So you basically, on a machine which is relatively small, you can have automation like you would have in a huge factory. And that's what makes it valuable and competitive against the rest. And just to, as a conclusion, the way we are trying to help this movement of community recycling is to offer the possibility to manufacture local products for pollution. I mean, basically, the idea is that at the moment, some communities are victims of this plastic pollution, which is a real problem, and you have to get rid of it. So you need to give the power, you need to empower these communities to defend against this pollution. So selling local products is an idea. We can share expertise because now with all the communication tools we have, it's relatively easy. And use low-tech principle, low carbon, less resources, easy to repair. Also, an important aspect is that it can create quite a lot of jobs, because all the jobs at the moment, they are all exported abroad. And also to facilitate, to have an incentive for cleaning, because if you know that you take it from the ocean and then you put it into a hole, you're not motivated. People would prefer to be that there is a use to their act, of course, and also remove the transport of waste, of that kind of waste, which is quite consequent. We could, in the question, we can discuss about the volumes, but this is not negligible. Well, that's it for my talk. Thanks, and if you have a question at the end, thanks.
Thank you very much. It was good to hear about the issues of dealing with waste and the work that you do over at Plastic Bay. I'll just hopefully share my screen for a second. Do you see that okay? Okay, yes, I just wanted to talk very briefly about the funding that we have available, just for any community groups that might be interested in developing their own project or engaging with communities about projects that they'd like to set up, including circular economy projects. So it's available for up to £500 to assist with development or engagement. And it's for constituted community groups, and it's also available on a first come first served basis. And as we're almost at the end of the financial year, it's probably best to wait until the start of April to apply, but just so that you know that it's out there. And I'll just move on. So this is the contact information for the hub. I'll distribute the contact information for Miriam, Matt, and Julian as well. And yeah, I'll just open it up to questions if anybody's got any for anyone. I'll take that silence as as a resounding no to the questions. Have any of the guest speakers got any questions for each other? Or should I resort to some of my questions? Okay.
I've got one. I'll jump in with one for Miriam. You'd mentioned obviously textiles been a really big factor in the waste world. You said there's some really exciting projects on the go as well. Is there any that particularly stand out to you that are, you know, particularly inspiring, that are maybe not run-of-the-mill projects?
Yeah, there's a couple that I particularly love. One is in the south side of Glasgow called Revolve Recycle, and they saw the value of swap shops. But obviously most places swap shops are an ad hoc event that happens maybe once a month or something. But they've set up swap shops actually on the high street, and they are proper shops that you can go in 5 days a week or whatever and become a member for free and swap your clothes. So it's great that it's stopping people buying new clothes, but it also means that, like, you know, it's behavior change is very difficult to influence. And there are people who are going to want new clothes all the time. So this means they can still regularly swap their clothes, but without buying new stuff. The other one is one in the Borders, not too far from me, called Retweed, and they've set up a social enterprise teaching women about how to upcycle unwanted textiles to make products that are actually saleable. And so they have a shop as part of their business and raise money by selling the products that the ladies make, but they also encourage the ladies to set up their own social enterprises. So they are teaching them those skills. And they also, certainly at one stage, I'm not sure with the pandemic, but were offering workspace to women to come and set up their social enterprise and give them support as well. So I think those are two really lovely ones that have been sort of started up by the community, but have really benefited people.
Can I chuck in a couple, Amanda, just very quickly? There's, again, and thinking back to repair as well, there are projects set up to help people mend and repair their own clothing, and some of them have their own sewing workshop spaces, or you can have a sewing machine loaned out to you. So again, it's that the need not to go and buy something new just because your item is slightly damaged. It's just, you know, it's what we all do. It's the fast fashion problem that we've always spoken about. And the other one, well, there's this, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Miriam, is it Sioda? Shida. Yeah, S-I-O-A-D-A, Shida.
S-I-O-D-A.
Yeah, sorry. And they're set up as a high-end clothing, what's the word, not borrowing, hiring service. Yeah, hiring service. Much like a lot of men hire, you know, kilts and etc. But actually high-end women's wear especially, they are really focusing on, and that's part of the future. Hiring clothes and repairing clothes over buying new clothes.
Fab, thank you. So Helen's actually got something then that kind of follows on, maybe more towards Miriam, but Matt might have something effect too. She's asking, how do the swap shops affect the local charity shops then? Are they noticing a sort of competition element, or are they quite supportive?
Yeah, I think they do work quite closely together because they're relatively small shops, and so they can't take everything. So they often get donated stuff that they then give to the charity shops. So they do try and work in conjunction with them. And also they are raising awareness of the benefits of reuse as well. I couldn't give you exact figures. You'd probably have to ask Revolve Recycle if they have anything around that. But I think they do try and work with them as much as possible.
Yeah, I think we're also of the opinion that there is so much textile and clothing that isn't recycled or reused at all, that actually there is room for everybody. There are room for swap shops, there are room for repair, there are room for private sector or social enterprise projects, and traditional mainstream charity shops. There is, I believe, there is something for everyone. If we truly want to get the volumes and the tonnages up and to go mainstream with this.
Okay, thank you both.
I just had a question, just for any kind of, on behalf of any community groups that might kind of want an easy entry into circular economy. Can you think of any kind of like easily adaptable projects that groups could get involved with that aren't too difficult, I guess?
From my point of view, I think it's simple things like these swap shops. Yeah, you can have swap shops set up pretty much anywhere. You just need a venue, so it could be a room at the back of a pub or something that you might be able to get for free if people go and buy drinks in the pub. And you just need some simple guidelines like, yeah, we're taking clothes or just kids stuff, or whether it, you know, whatever it may be clear as to what you want. And publicize. Do you want people to bring stuff before the event so you can set it all up and have it looking nice, or do you just bring it on the night? And set up some rules. But there's lots of guides online about how to run a swap shop. But I think that's a really nice one to get people started with. Other things around, like food waste is a nice one as well, because if you can get a local chef or somebody like that in and do a bit of a cookery demo, but lay on some free food as well, that's a great way to get people along, and you can start to talk about food waste and why that's so important. So I think it's making kind of stuff that's fun to the community, but doesn't sound like you're sort of trying to brainwash them or turn them into a greenie. You know, these are things that actually they can benefit from, whether they understand it's anything about the environment or not. As far as they're concerned, they're going along to get some free clothes or get some free food or learn how to cook. And then you can start to bring in the environmental messages as well. If Matt has some suggestions as well from.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that, Miriam. And also, I suppose that the point we were making, Jonny, is you could start anything up locally, small scale, with volunteers, because actually it's that in terms of the resource needed are quite low. It could be a tool library or a sharing library. It could be on the food theme. Community fridges are very much becoming more prevalent. But it's when you want to take the next step to actually start employing someone or actually delivering a service over and above just a basic local voluntary project, then maybe the challenges are funding and finance and the sustainability of that, which might be a theme or a question that someone might have for later this afternoon. But anything is possible, small scale and local. And there are some amazing small scale and local voluntary level projects that will always be voluntary level circular economy projects in small communities. But there are also some really, as we've just heard from Julian, potentially socially enterprising, larger scale services and businesses of potential as well. So it's something for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Joan has got a hand up.
Hi, I'm Joan. I'm part of Plastic at Bay with GN. But I just want to discuss about how just with the low-tech model that you don't necessarily have to be on the scale of myself and GN with recycling and having machines. So we kind of go on this precious plastic model which GN discussed about. But they can have a community can start by just collecting the type of waste that they find is problematic and storing it, and then they can maybe move up invest in a shredder, they can hook up with other people who are part of this precious plastic community. And then through there, it's kind of like, as Julian was saying, the whole idea is to have like a network within communities. So you don't have to have this workshop that has everything in it. The point is you can have different workshops, like let's say we do something here. Green Hive and Nern also have similar machines to us, but they collect like domestic waste. So you can kind of work together, but disjointed and in smaller, kind of easier steps to kind of to get the kind of low tech thing going, you know. So you don't have to, as I said, you don't have to be on the scale of us. You can start small and then build up what you have and work with other communities to use this kind of low tech recycling of plastic. That's it.
That's great, thank you. Lily was also just saying repair and refurb of used lost cycles is something that works really well. The police get stuck with cycles and will donate them for rehoming. I guess that ties in with what you were saying, Matt, about the repair and reuse cycling.
Yeah, I mean, there are already some incredible bike projects up and down Scotland. But again, there are some examples of small communities just with volunteers having a small local bike project. So absolutely, bikes is a really good one, especially, yes, you didn't get the supply from the police, but there are, you can get them from local authority recycling centres, private donations. There's any number of other supply opportunities as well for bikes.
Yeah, there was a good cycle project in Kirkwall where the cycle Kirkwall, I presume it's called, works with the job centre, and they kind of take volunteers for courses and do workshops and employment workshops, and kind of allow people to get the skills of like hands-on work and also kind of the retail aspect of things. And they get to keep the bike at the end of it. So it's kind of like, you know, reusing unwanted bikes and developing, again, community needs that we were talking about earlier on. But yeah, that's just something that I've seen in Kirkwall. I'll just, are there any more questions or?
So I've got one for Julian or possibly Joan, whoever would like to pop in. So when you were getting Plastic Bay sort of started and up and off the ground, what did you find were the biggest hurdles that you had to face to actually get some, to get up and started? And on that, if anybody was looking at setting up something similar, what would be your main piece of advice to either for them to do or to not bother with?
I mean, I'm gonna be very boring, but there is nearly no financing available for this kind of stuff, and it's impossible for me to be full-time on that job. I need to have other jobs. So that's, and I mean, especially at the beginning, we had difficulties to estimate the true cost of establishing even a basic activity, and we overshot terribly our budget. Well, just to give you an idea with numbers, I might be corrected by Joan, but I think we were thinking of investing £2,000 in the machines when we started. And I think in terms of machinery plus engineering time and students working on it, we probably, you can add 2 zeros to that. So that's a big challenge. What I would say, if I can give an advice for circular economy, it's still you have to sell something. And if you don't want to just depend on volunteers, I would have a question about that. Actually, it's not really a question, it's more a comment. But if you want to be sustainable, you need to get the money coming in a relatively regular way. If you want your system to run, to pay your rent, to pay your maintenance, all that kind of stuff. And for that, you need to have a relatively good idea of what you're going to sell and where you're going to sell it. And I think that was a bit of a mistake at the beginning also, because we didn't know if the recycling was possible, because people were so negative about recycling marine plastic, saying that it was not possible, and that and this and that, and we kind of really spread on trying to make really a lot of different kind of products, and also a lot of art and a lot of engagement and a lot of, and in the end we kind of, it's, you have to recenter. So maybe a more focused mind and mine is better. So that you have an objective is to make that product, and that's a product you're sure you're going to sell. I think that's really important into a circular economy. You need to fulfill a need. You know, if you're in the idea of refusing, for example, we refuse household waste, right? Because we don't want to participate into it. Because a company which, let's say, make yogurt pots doesn't care, because the yogurt pots just go one way and then they disappear somewhere. You know, they're never involved with what the plastic they use for manufacturing these pots becomes. If you pollution is different, you're kind of you have, it's there, you know. Whereas locally in a community, you can try to encourage to not use plastics. I know it could be a bit paradoxical, but it's, the objective is first that we have less of this plastic production, of course, you know. If I could stop recycling tomorrow, I would do it. You know, it's not, you know, it's just it's a responsibility you don't necessarily want to have. But yeah, product development, have a good idea, a market. It's not necessarily easy in a rural environment. But that would be my piece of advice. I had a kind of a comment, and I see the dynamic in a lot of the reflections here. Is there's a, I mean, ourselves too, but there's a lot asked voluntarily, and I have a real personal issue. You know, for example, we receive a lot of stuff from aquaculture, fishing, which, you know, industrial fishing and not small scale, like generally industrial fishing. So, you know, activities which are very profitable. And then we ask volunteers to do something about it, to take part of their time, part of their life, to do something about it. And I kind of, I mean, maybe for people which are more in contact with the government, I kind of have a philosophical problem with that. So it's more a question for like Matt or Miriam maybe, but yeah, I think Kevin is asking.
Does Kevin want to ask his question? And then because I've got some thoughts, I can come back to you, Julian, after that. But Kevin's had his hand up for a while.
No, hi. So I kind of was listening to Julian and sympathising in a way, because Recirculate Sutherland, who I'm part of, are doing exactly what Julian's talking about. We're at the moment looking at a pilot to deal with agricultural plastic. So Plastic at Bay deal with marine plastic. We're looking to deal with the other problem that's in Sutherland and Caithness, is the actual collection and processing of agricultural plastic. And I would say the same that Julian said, to set a workshop up to do a basic amount of processing and actually making a few products is probably in the region of 20 to 30,000 pounds just to get started. And that kind of funding is hard to come by in terms of going to organisations and asking them to fund it, because some don't really understand what you're trying to do. And, you know, our view has also been the people that need to get rid of that plastic should kind of make some contribution as well. And that's proving to be more difficult than you would think. And from a government point of view, and I have to say from a zero waste point of view, it's, well, there's lots of commercial recyclers, but they don't come this far. They're not interested. It's too far. There's not enough plastic to make them come and do it. And also the commercial, if you go out to people and say Precious Plastics is a fantastic network, but some of their machines are not suitable for the types of plastics that we might want to shred or we might want to process. You go to commercial companies, they'll say, how much have you got? You kind of describe what you're going to do. And they say, well, you know, unless you've got less than 100 grand, we don't want to talk to you. So I absolutely agree with Julian, a network of recyclers and people that can process the plastic, people that can take that plastic, turn it into local products. It saves the problems of transporting out of the area, saves the other problem of transporting heavy products, in many cases, back to the area, especially if you make construction material, beams, posts, things like that. But there's not too much of an interest in doing that, but the problem remains. And so plastic waste, farm plastic waste gets buried, still gets burnt, even though that's illegal now. But when people are remote and they have no other options, you know, things get done. So it's not really a question. It was just really a comment on that. You know, I totally agree with the difficulties Julian's having, and it would be good to see a bit more support for doing this type of thing, because it is important and it does help clean up the environment and it does contribute to the climate emergency. So yeah, so that's really what I want to say. Thank you.
I just thought before you answer, Matt, I'll just read out Lauren's comment in the chat. She said, I agree with Julian. I think it's an issue that definitely still needs addressing by the government as they think about promoting these initiatives. So many of these projects still require free labour to be viable. And I think there needs to be an understanding and addressing of the balance between rewarding volunteering opportunities and potentially exploiting free labour. And Lily said, we have terrible roads in the Highlands and our recycled plastic is just piling up. Why don't we use the plastic to resurface the roads like they are doing in other places? And then Lauren said again, I feel as though there needs to be more support for labour costs, especially in startup phases. So I'll leave that with you, Matt.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would disagree with any of that. It's just from all of our different perspectives, that all of those comments make perfect sense. Because I sometimes think, am I thinking this through correctly? Because I've done litter picks. I remember doing litter picks at school, but also moving up to Scotland, I remember doing litter picks on beaches with schools and community groups. Communities don't don't create the problem, but they end up solving it themselves because they care about their communities. And people like Julian and Joan are creating really interesting models to deal with some of the materials. But there is absolutely, I don't mind if communities are volunteering, that's fine, that's one thing, but there's definitely an element of are the people that are getting away with not stepping up their responsibilities, letting communities get on with it. And I'm talking not so much about governments directly, more about, well, back to manufacturers and producers. Anyone, you guys that do marine litter, you will know the sources of that marine litter. It's not rocket science. You know the industries in which that litter is created. So why internationally or even on a European level isn't there some system to actually engage with the industry to say, well, actually there needs to be either a levy or a tax or something to actually make the producers and manufacturers responsible for the whole life of the products that they create. And some of that money could then, as others have said, feed back into these fantastic local community level projects and social enterprises for dealing with some of the plastics. It's easy to say, but difficult to do. But also the circular economy bill might be just one place that we in Scotland can keep saying that and telling the Scottish government, actually, this is something. So yeah, that was what I wanted to say on that, Jonny.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, it's very difficult to, well, kind of answer, I guess, or address, because it's not really within any of our powers to influence, yeah, but not to enact on. Julian's got his hand up, so I'll let him speak.
I just sorry, yeah, I just want a few reactions with the questions, but I wanted to say that there is the marine litter strategy there's a consultation out there. So if you have something to do, like to say, just do it, because it's closing, I think, in 4 days. So we've of course documented, as you say, it's not rocket science. I can tell you the level we are on. When on Twitter I'm posting a debris which is of course from the aquaculture, I'm being attacked by lobbies from the fish farms. So that's the level we are on. I'm in part of our consultation, as I am appealed by the use of the this kind of putting the fishing activities in forced conflict, I would say, with the coastal communities, which are not necessarily the same people. They are traditionally, but it's not all our local fishermen, help us, So it's a fact. They want the things to change, but it's very easy at the moment. It's been very used politically to put in opposition these two communities, whereas obviously the fact that there's absolutely no like the manufacturing gives no option than using plastic, moderately good quality plastic. It just looks good enough, but I mean, they still have to change their nets every 6 months. And they wear and tear, and this is the only option which is offered to the industry. Plastic and more plastic and more plastic. And we have to remind people that Scotland is the first or one of, or the second producer of plastic in Europe. Okay, so Grangemouth is the biggest plant of plastic. The second plant is in Norway and is owned by the same company. And I think there is a real problem here when we know where it comes from, because we know where it comes from. We can trace it directly to the producer. We can, I mean, what is Queensferry beach? I can't remember. Or it's just by the bridge. I mean, it's infamous for the spills from the factory. There's not been any nobody has stepped up high enough to say it's enough, and that's it, because that's just what you need. Someone stepping up, but you could, I can dig reports which are 15 years old from Marine Scotland, or even 7 years old, and it's the same stuff is repeated. It's repeated, and then it enters into the government, and then it disappears. So me, what I really don't like is that there's a lot of finger pointing, and I think when you're in circular economy and there is a problem like this, it's very easy, because of course the source, to be confrontational, but it's never going to work. The saying is, the only person you need to speak is your enemy, because you have to find a solution, and we have to find a solution together. It's not going to happen individually. That's just a bit the way, because we are directly concerned, by this contrast between having friends which work in the industry and have to deal with the pollution which is linked to the same industry. You see what I mean? And they also live here and they also witness it. So another point specific to plastic: what is a manufacturer of plastic? Is it the person which pumps the gas? Is it the person which ships the gas to Scotland? Is it the plant which makes the virgin plastic? Is it the guy which adds the additive which is specific for the usage of your plastic? Is it the person which makes the object in plastic, or the distribution? I think it's a very complicated problem. Just, I mean, I don't say that I have any, because I ask myself, if there is a misuse of the plastic we produce, is it my fault? You say, or if we do a mistake, who is responsible? Is it me? Is it going to be the guy before? Which, you know, I mean, I'll let you maybe answer these questions, but I'm not. I think it's a complex problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Here. I think we'd all 100% agree with that. I think the term we would use, or you see banded around, is extended producer responsibility. But especially when you're talking about actual products, mattresses, furniture, electrical items, I mean, they are real products. And to be honest, the challenge with the extra challenge with marine litter is it's with the other products, they're not coming in on the tide. They are just being either given to recycling centres or dumped, or people are buying a new item and giving someone their old item. It is still complicated, but it's not as complicated as items coming in on the tide. And I wonder, that comes back, Kevin, to the farm plastic question is slightly simpler because the plastic is on the farms, and and then you have companies supplying the plastic, but it is still complicated to work out what a fair system would be to make everyone okay with a more circular solution to farm plastics. Yeah, it is complex.
Yeah. Maybe we should have got Lorna Slater in here, and maybe she would have been able to enlighten us some more. I don't know if we might be 17 minutes over the end of the session, but as long as you guys are happy, then I'm happy.
It's just great. I mean, this is Jonny. Seriously, Jonny, thanks for putting these on. These are really great chats. Just even with this group of people, everyone's perspective and knowledge and expertise is different, and it's just amazing to see. So seriously, these been really good. And just to hear Julian and Joan talk about their project, that is actually, although it's challenging, it's inspiring to hear their stories.
Yeah, it's definitely good to hear from people that are directly involved in it. Yeah, if there's no more questions.
I've just got one
Oh.
point again. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
all me. Just for Julian and Jonah, it was something that Matt had actually brought up in last night's information session. So obviously you have like the sort of Marine Scotland and everything, but do you guys have like an actual network that sort of covers the sort of beach cleans and I don't want to use litter picking per se, but do you have like a network of organisations like Circular Community Scotland and like Zero Waste Scotland, but that is actually dedicated to marine waste?
So I would say formally yes and no. We have a Highland Marine Litter group, which has been a bit dormant because it's not easy to meet because the distances are what they are, and also COVID. So we've organized meetings to discuss about these problems. We have on our website, mea culpa, it's not working very well at the moment. Yeah, but we have a citizen science portal where you can record what you collect. It's meant to be easy. It's just by weight. And then the thing is that organically, I think the social media are very dynamic around this topic. So we tend to just know who is doing what. And like I just saw the other day, like just this morning, I saw a group I followed. They were pulling a net from the coast, and I had never seen the brand. And as you say, like for the responsibility, I was just curious, and I just asked them to send me a sample so I can see what they are, because I just, and that's not really organized, I would say. It's a bit, but I think, yeah, in terms of recycling, we collaborate with the people. I mean, most closely we collaborate with Green Hive because they came to get trained, and then they bought some of our machines or similar machines to ours. This kind of stuff, but it's yeah, I personally prefer that it's a bit more organic than really, because we are most of the time we're volunteers for most of, you know, even if we can generate an income at some point, it's most of these things needs to be flexible enough so that people want to participate. So there's no formal network. I mean, if someone wants to to go in and do it, I would be happy, but it's not the case.
Julian, that was my point last night. I think there's a gap, and because I specifically said that's our expertise as a sector, as a member sector, is supporting reuse, repair, and recycling more than, you know, bikes, furniture, electricals, etc. Zero Waste Scotland and Miriam do specific activities with private sector companies and local authorities. I just thought there was a gap, and knowing just how much community level activity there is up and down Scotland, pretty much on every Scottish island, there will be community beach cleans of some description or another. It must be, and I don't think anyone's ever mapped that properly. I don't know if Keep Scotland Beautiful would have some measure of litter picks that are just beach or coast based, but it just seems to me, I think the data, I mean, and the people would be incredible.
On our website, you have, I mean, I don't know if you've been on our website, but if you go on the research portal, you will see that there is quite a lot of people participating. So, I mean, in Caithness, they're very, very well organized. And every year also, we transfer their data. We have Surfers Against Sewage, so that's UK wide, and also smaller groups. As I say, if they want to participate, they are on it. I mean, it can exist without existing. The problem is that the problem and not a problem, but Marine Scotland, which is supposedly supposed to monitor these things, uses the Marine Conservation Society for that, which is not necessarily very well implanted in our area, and they have no monitoring of our area, and they don't monitor in a way which is adapted to people going every day, or every week, because that's basically what you need to do in here if you want to keep your area more or less okay. So yeah, there is a gap. There are also a lot of territoriality for some reason. So some people don't want to collaborate, or they don't. I don't think they understand how powerful it is to. I mean, if you go on the statistics we get and are appealing, you know. If you compile all this data, it's shocking. To be honest, it's shocking. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe you need an engagement officer just to do that. But I would say the network exists in an ad hoc kind of way, or maybe we could put more into our time, but it's just not possible at the moment. We would probably need someone employed just to do it, you know.
So you're just going to jump in there, Julian, that part of the hub's remit is to actually help establish networks where there is a gap, and that, you know, networks do need to exist. So maybe it's something, you know, like that we could, with yourself and like Matt and Miriam, maybe at some point actually look at and maybe sort of work.
I mean, everything goes. I'm against nothing. I just I think people are just putting bits of string together with the time they have, and that's the reality. And maybe the hub can help joining the different communities better. I don't know.
Okay. It's 25 past now. I'm not sure if, because the event on Eventbrite was 1 hour and a half, it will probably kick us out in 5 minutes time. So provided there's no urgent questions that can be addressed in 5 minutes, I'll wrap it up now. I just want to thank Miriam, Matt, and Julian for speaking again. It's been really interesting, and the discussions, despite there not being that many people attending, have been really good. And hopefully people that go online to have a look at the recordings will learn quite a lot about the issue of waste, and hopefully the solutions that they can take on board to help address it. But yeah, so I just want to say thank you for being guest speakers, and also thank you to everyone that's attended as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for setting up.